Meditations, Marcus Aurelius summary. Some books were never meant to be sold, read in masses, or celebrated in bookstores. They were written in silence, not to teach others, but to save the one writing them. Meditations, by Marcus Aurelius, is one such book. It was a personal journal, never intended for publication, composed during sleepless nights, in war tents, and in lonely reflections between political battles. And yet, it became one of the most powerful works of philosophy of the mind ever written. Welcome to this Meditations by Marcus Aurelius summary, brought to you by Optimized, where wisdom is transformed into reflection. If what you're about to hear touches your spirit, like this video and subscribe. Each new listener strengthens our mission. Reading Meditations is like sitting with an emperor, not to be impressed by his power, but to be humbled by his honesty. In these pages, Marcus Aurelius doesn't give advice, he examines himself. He confronts his anger, his vanity, his distractions, his fear of death. He doesn't pose as a guru. He speaks as a flawed man trying to live with dignity. That's what makes this book so powerful. It's not a treatise, it's a mirror. At the heart of Meditations is Stoicism, a philosophy that teaches you to distinguish between what you can control and what you cannot. Marcus returns to this principle again and again. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That's the essence of his worldview. Don't waste energy resisting the external world. Shape your internal world. This is not passivity, it's mastery. One of the most striking elements in Meditations is how modern it feels. Marcus talks about distraction, ego, comparison, and self-doubt in ways that sound like they were written yesterday. He reminds us that people will always gossip, insult, and misunderstand us, and that our peace doesn't depend on their behavior, but on our response. He invites us to practice inner peace not as escapism, but as clarity. When your mind is calm, your judgment sharpens, and when your judgment is clear, your actions align with your values. He insists, your time is limited. Don't waste it chasing the approval of others. Don't waste it getting angry at what you can't change. Don't waste it trying to control fate. You were born to act with justice, courage, temperance, and wisdom. That's what matters. Everything else is noise. Marcus also brings us into contact with mortality, not to depress us, but to liberate us. When you remember that you are going to die, your priorities rearrange themselves. Trivial things lose their grip. What matters shines brighter. He writes, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. That's not fear, it's focus. And that's one of the most practical gifts of Stoicism. It teaches urgency without anxiety, ambition without attachment. Optimized insights. You control your response, not the world. Stoicism isn't about emotionlessness, it's about emotional clarity. Mortality is not an enemy, it's a motivator. Inner peace begins where control ends. Philosophy is not abstract, it's how you wake, work, argue, and forgive. Reading Meditations is like walking beside a wise friend who refuses to flatter you. Marcus doesn't tell you what you want to hear. He tells you what you need to face. He challenges your excuses. He questions your priorities. He strips away illusions. And in doing so, he shows you the core of your character. That's why this book is not to be read once, it's to be returned to again and again. Each reading is a recalibration, a realignment with your highest self. One of the most transformative aspects of Meditations is how Marcus Aurelius approaches discomfort not as a problem, but as a teacher. He believed that pain, frustration, illness, and disappointment were not obstacles on the path, but part of the path itself. What stands in the way becomes the way. He writes, this is Stoicism distilled. Life doesn't need to be comfortable to be meaningful. Growth doesn't require ease, it requires presence. Marcus reminds us that we are not our emotions, we are the awareness behind them. When anger rises, observe it. When fear visits, welcome it without surrender. When desire clouds your focus, return to what's essential. This practice of observing without being consumed is one of the foundations of inner peace, and it's not passive, it's rigorous. It demands discipline, humility, and daily attention. He often wrote in the mornings and evenings, moments of stillness between chaos. These were his daily Stoic practices, reflecting on his duties, setting intentions, reminding himself of values, and confronting his faults. He didn't wait for motivation, he trained his mind like a muscle. This is where philosophy becomes practical, not in debates, but in discipline, not in theory, but in habits, in the choice to wake up and ask, what kind of person will I be today? And that question runs through Meditations like a pulse. Marcus returns to it again and again, not in the abstract but in the concrete. How do I respond when insulted? How do I act when tempted by power? How do I remain just when others are unjust? For him, philosophy wasn't a career, it was a compass. A daily battle to stay aligned with virtue in a world that constantly pulls us away. He challenges us to remember the logos, the rational structure of the universe. He believed we are all connected, not just biologically, but spiritually. Every injustice harms the whole. Every virtue uplifts the whole. To act justly is not just to be moral, it is to be in harmony with nature itself. And this is a recurring theme in Stoicism, that virtue is not optional, it is essential, not as a religious dogma, but as a path to coherence, integrity, and strength. Optimized insights, what stands in the way becomes the way. Emotions are visitors, observe, don't obey. Inner peace is not the absence of conflict, it's the presence of clarity. Philosophy is not knowledge, it's practice. Your thoughts shape your character, and character shapes your destiny. Marcus often compares life to a play. You don't choose the script, the role, or the duration, but you choose how well you perform. Whether you're given a short scene or a long one, whether your part is tragic or comedic, your task is to act it with dignity. That's freedom, not having control over life, but having control over how you show up to life. And when you feel lost or scattered, he reminds you, return to yourself. You carry within you a guiding light, a fragment of the universal order. You don't need external approval to live rightly. You don't need the world to understand you to remain centered. The more you anchor yourself in your inner clarity, the less the noise of the world can move you. That's not detachment, it's sovereignty. In the writings of Marcus Aurelius, we find not only the voice of an emperor, but of a soul constantly wrestling with itself. And this is one of the most humanizing truths of meditations, that even a ruler of the known world woke each morning with doubt, restlessness, and the burden of responsibility. But instead of escaping, he faced it. He journaled, he reflected, he refined his thinking. This is not weakness, it's philosophy of the mind in action. Marcus did not expect perfection from himself, but he demanded progress, and that's a powerful invitation for all of us. Don't aim to be flawless. Aim to be a little less reactive today than you were yesterday, a little more focused, a little more kind. That's the discipline of Stoicism. It's not cold or rigid, it's tender, courageous, and deeply human. One of the core tensions Marcus explores is between the external world and the inner world. He warns that fame, luxury, and the approval of others are seductive illusions. They seem like rewards, but they are traps. They distract us from what really matters, the cultivation of the soul. He writes, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Such simplicity carries immense power, because in a world obsessed with image, integrity becomes radical. He teaches that we must simplify not just our schedules, but our minds. Life is short, death is certain, time is fleeing, so stop postponing your values. Stop waiting to be more ready. You don't need more time, you need more presence, and presence is a practice. One breath at a time, one conversation at a time, one decision at a time. Inner peace, for Marcus, doesn't come from avoiding stress, it comes from staying upright within it. From remembering that your dignity is not given by others, it's maintained by your own choices. From acting not with impulse, but with purpose. From observing your thoughts as if you were not them but their master. He writes, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Guard those thoughts, shape them with care. Optimized insights, progress, not perfection, is the true Stoic path. External approval is noisy, inner integrity is quiet and strong. Simplicity sharpens clarity. You are not your thoughts, you are the one who trains them. Inner peace is not a destination, it's a daily decision. In a time where anxiety is normalized and speed is glorified, Marcus teaches slowness, not laziness, but reflection. He invites us to pause before reacting, to respond with principle, and to live as if each moment matters because it does. And that's why his words have endured. They don't just describe life, they elevate it. He also challenges the ego at every turn. Power, status, titles, none of it impressed him. What mattered was whether he lived justly, ruled wisely, and stayed faithful to reason. That's the real crown, not gold, but character, not dominion over others, but dominion over self. And that's what philosophy of the mind ultimately leads us to, the realization that true greatness begins within. As meditations nears its end, Marcus Aurelius reminds us again, nothing external can disturb the peace of a mind anchored in virtue. That peace is not the absence of storms, it is the strength to stand calm in their midst. That is the essence of Stoicism, not to escape life, but to engage it with unwavering clarity. And that clarity doesn't arrive by chance. It is forged daily, in reflection, repetition, and choice. He teaches that every day is a rehearsal for death, not in a morbid way, but in a clarifying one. Death is not something to be feared, it is something to be accepted, to be used as a filter for what truly matters. When you live with mortality in mind, your tolerance for nonsense drops, your connection to purpose deepens, your urgency to love increases, life becomes more vivid. He also writes about accepting others with compassion. People will lie, cheat, and act in ignorance. That's not new, it's human nature. But your job is not to fix them. Your job is to not become like them, to stay grounded in justice, patience, and kindness. He insists, the best revenge is to be unlike the one who did you harm. This is inner peace through virtue. His reflections offer a guide to anyone seeking not just to think deeply but to live wisely, to wake each day and align action with conscience, to resist distractions and stay loyal to what's essential, to cultivate humility in power, resilience in loss, and stillness in success. These are the daily Stoic practices Marcus embodied not perfectly, but with sincerity. And he ends his writings with a kind of calm surrender, not of resignation, but of readiness. He knows that his time is finite, but he also knows that if he has lived by reason, served justice, and remained true to nature, then he has fulfilled his task. And that is all that's needed. Optimized insights. Peace is not passive, it is principled. You don't defeat darkness by becoming it, you stay light. Death is not an enemy, it is a mentor. Live as if today matters because it does. Wisdom is not knowing more, it's needing less. As we close this Meditations by Marcus Aurelius summary, let's remember, greatness is not loud. It's not in titles, applause, or achievements. It's in integrity, presence, and the courage to choose what's right over what's easy. That's why these reflections, written 2,000 years ago, still echo today, because truth doesn't age, and character never goes out of style. If this summary stirred something in you, if it reminded you of what truly matters, like this video and subscribe to Optimized. We are building a community of reflection, resilience, and renewal, one principle at a time, one insight at a time, because the battle for peace is fought inside and won daily.